What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in yesterday's video it was requested by a few of my subscribers to make a video on ETFs, so that's what we'll do today. We will discuss my two favorite ETFs. One is based in Europe and one is based in the US. We will discuss my plans to have these both incorporated into my trading 2-on-2 portfolio pie and the weightings I want behind each of these. We will talk about why I want to remain cash heavy in the coming weeks and months. We will also take a look at some other ETFs in future videos, such as institutionals, such as ARK Invest. We will look at their ETFs, and we will look at some individual sector ETFs, such as in the financial sector. I saw a clean energy sector ETF yesterday that I found quite interesting as well. So we can look at those in coming videos. We'll also talk about why I'll be using two different brokers, Degiro and Trading 212. And for each of the ETFs that we will discuss in today's video, we will look at their current price, we'll take a look at their 1-year chart, their weightings per sector, their top holdings, and top shareholders. But before we get into today's video, as always, if you're new around here, please consider smashing that subscribe button, as we're currently on 341 subscribers, so we're only 9 away from our next goal of 350. So with all that being said, let's dive right into my portfolio. So here we are on my trading 2-on-2 portfolio. If we scroll down here on the left, we can go to my ETF pie, which is currently up 4.06%, or just over €20. As we can see here, we only have the one ETF as now, and this will be one of the ETFs we're covering in today's video, which is the US Vanguard S&P 500 ETF. We'll be discussing that. So it got me thinking in previous videos that some of my pies, even such as my energy pie, etc., only have 1 or 2 holdings. So I wanted to add holdings into each of these pies, and we're starting with the ETF. So in terms of ETF, we currently just have the one. So I'll be adding in a second ETF, and it'll be in the European market in the form of the FTSE 100, the Vanguard FTSE 100 ETF. So we'll be discussing both of these ETFs in today's video. In terms of weightings, I think I'm going to have about 80% weighting on the Vanguard S&P 500 and 20% on the FTSE 100. In terms of ETFs, there is many, and there's across all different aspects and sectors of the market you can get ETFs in. But the reason I'm picking the Vanguard S&P 500 and the FTSE 100, which is down below down here, the reason I'm picking both of those is because they incorporate the whole UK and US markets, so they give you a vast diversification across all sectors in those particular financial sectors. So, like for example, even in the coming months, I might start looking into more ETFs, maybe even have 5 or 10% weightings in those, such as, let's say, emerging markets, all world. As I discussed at the start of this video, I saw a clean energy ETF that I want to look into as well. And I also like looking at ARK Invest. They have a lot of very interesting emerging ETFs that have a lot of potential. So again, in new videos, we will definitely be looking into more ETFs. As I stated, I currently use two brokers in the form of Trading 212 and Degiro. So again, I have no holdings as such in Degiro. There's only €6 in the balance as such right now, which is fine because in the coming weeks I'll start to be pumping money into this brokerage because their ETFs, which we can look at in new videos as well, they have them in euro, so they have a lot of their ETFs in euro, whereas Trading 212, a lot of theirs are on the London Stock Exchange, which means they'd be in pounds. So just having my own currency, it kind of would make more sense if I started to use Degiro for my ETFs. So firstly, let's talk about the ETF that I actually do have positioning at the moment, which is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF with ticker symbol VUSA. If we scroll down here, we can see that there's currently 505 companies in this ETF, and their exposure is 100% in North America. When we scroll down here, we can see their weighted exposure. In the tech sector, they have 28.1%, healthcare 14.2%, consumer discretionary is at 11.6%, communication services at 10.8%, financials is next up just under 10%, industrials is just over 8%, 7% is consumer staples, 3% in utilities, 2.6% in materials, similar percentage in real estate, and 2.1% in energy. The S&P 500 top holdings are in Apple with 6.65%, Microsoft with 5.69, Amazon is next up, then we have Facebook, then we have two Alphabet's Class C and Class A, we have Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett's Class B at 1.51%, Johnson & Johnson in the healthcare sector, P&G and VUSA make up the top 10 holdings. In terms of the S&P 500's one-year chart on the London Stock Exchange, we can see this time last year it was at about £44.86. It went up to about just under £50 per share and dived down to about just under the 40 mark at about £38 per share. But since March, it has had a very good recovery and is back up to just under £50 per share. And again, you might think, oh, it's only after going up about £10 in the last year. But if you think about it, that's a lot because it's covering over 500 different companies. So it's very diversified, which means there's very little risk overall. So you can expect, let's say, 50 or 60% a year growth return because, again, it's very diversified. So the risk-reward ratio is quite good to have up £10 per share in the last year. And the new ETF that I want to get involved with in my own trading 2-1 portfolio and to have 20% weighting in my trading 2-1-2 pie is the FTSE 100 ETF with ticker symbol VUKG. It is traded on the London Stock Exchange and is obviously in currency GBP. There's currently 102 stocks in this ETF. And if we scroll down here, we can see that they have 100% exposure in Europe. And that's exactly what I'm looking for because with the S&P 500, it's in North America that has their exposure. So it really does give me a very vast and diversified overall diversification, having both of these ETFs in my portfolio. I might even, again, in the coming weeks, I might even look at, let's say, my own home market, the Irish Stock Exchange. I might even look at, like, say, the German market or the French market. And we might even put 5 or 10% weightings into a few of those ETFs as well. Again, just to help further diversify out my ETF portfolio. But for now, we'll stick with the two. So we can see here with the FTSE 100 that their top sector weighted is in the consumer staples with 19.2%. The financials have 17%, healthcare 13.4%. We then have the industrials, basic materials, and consumer discretionary all with over 10%. With 8% is energy, utilities 4%, and then 2% and 1% respectively have telecommunications, technology, real estate. So when we go down here then, we can see their top holdings in the form of AstraZeneca with a 7.3% weighted. We have GlaxoSmithKline with 4.7%, British American Tobacco with 4.1%. We then have HSBC, Diageo, Unilever, Rio Tinto, Reckitt, BP, Royal Dutch Class A and B, we have BHP Group, we have Relx, National Grid, etc. So that's the top holdings, and again, there's no point in me looking into all 500 of the S&P 500 ETF, and there's no point in me looking into every one of the over 102 stocks in the FTSE 100 because we'd be here all day. But it's always good to see the top 10 holdings because that gives you a very good overview of where this ETF is holding and where it's heading in the future. As a long-term investor, I believe this Vanguard FTSE 100 ETF is definitely a very good investment for now. As a long-term investor, we can see it is currently sitting at about £25.19. This time last year, it was at about £30, nearly £31 for that matter. So it's down about £6 in the last 12 months. And obviously that's down to Brexit, the virus, and such other kind of global economic factors. So I feel that as a long-term investor, you can see it dived down to about £22 per share. So it's beginning to recover. And I do feel that it has a long way to go yet in terms of recovery. But as a long-term investor, I feel that the current price per share or per ETF is quite appealing to me at this present moment in time. Whereas let's say my S&P 500 ETF, I believe that's kind of overvalued at the moment. We're up about 4%, and I got in. I didn't even get in at a good time with that ETF, and I'm still up over 4%. So I'm going to kind of be hesitant in terms of putting more money into that ETF for now. So that's why I'm going to start pumping money into the FTSE 100 here because it's undervalued at the moment, and I'm all for dollar cost averaging. So I feel this will be the perfect time for me to add this into my own portfolio. So in summary, this is what I'm planning on doing on my trading 2-on-2 portfolio ETF pie. Prior, we had my Vanguard S&P 500 at 100% weighting, but now we're going to drop that down to 90% weighting. Again, I know that's an awful lot, but I feel that I want to keep the majority of my money in the ETF pie in the US market. So we leave that at 90% for now. And as I mentioned previously in this video, if we find another ETF in Europe or even in some of the emerging markets, we might put a further 10% into one of those and drop this down to 80. But I do want to keep this ETF quite high in this pie. And then what we mentioned also is the Vanguard FTSE 100. We're going to be putting 10% weighting here. So once we do that, we'll see we have an average annual return of 12.04% based on 5 years historical market data. Now obviously past performance won't pave the way for the future as such, but that just gives you a rough estimate of what we'll be expecting in 5 years. So we're going to just save that now, and we'll be putting more funds into this ETF pie in the coming weeks, and we'll definitely be doing an update on this in my Friday trading 2-on-2 updates. So with all that being said, that brings the end to today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it somewhat helpful. If you did, it would be great if you could consider smashing that like button. And as always, if you're new around here, please consider being one of those 9 people that will help me get to the next goal of 350 subscribers. It would mean an awful lot. Also, as I mentioned throughout this video, if you have any individual sector ETFs, or if you want me to discuss some more of ARK Invest's ETFs, comment below and I'll definitely make videos on those. So thanks very much guys, and I'll see y'all in tomorrow's video.